Welcome to A and B Horror Movies. I'm Aaron, and I'm very excited to be joined today by Jason Zink and Nolan Mihail. Welcome to you both.
Thank you for
Hey,
having us.
Yes, this is going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on. So, I have you both on today to talk about your brand new found footage horror thriller, Looky-Loo. You guys are the masterminds behind this film. I've got a couple copies right here. I just want to show quickly. I loved it. Congratulations. What a disturbing, terrifying, it's like nothing I've ever seen before film. You guys have created something really special here.
Thank you so much. That means a
yeah,
lot.
thanks.
Yes, yes. Oh, you're very welcome. So why don't we jump right into it? So Jason, you directed the film. Nolan, you wrote the screenplay. How did it come about? How did Looky-Loo come about? How did you get inspired for this film? And perhaps did you ever find someone hiding in your own homes? That
Uh,
last part's kind of a joke,
well,
unless
the
it's
weird
true.
thing, I'll start with the end of that, actually. I think Nolan and I both
Yes.
have weird stories, but literally in the last week, I walked out onto my back porch slash sunroom area, and there was a man sitting there on the benches, just looking for our Wi-Fi signal. But we have a
Oh
password.
my gosh.
Yeah, so
Okay.
like it was so weird for me because I took a second of like, does he know somebody that I know? Like it took a beat for me to recognize, like, no, this is just a man sitting back here in my house. So I told him he had to leave, and he
So
left. And then he came.
physically in your house,
Yeah, so it's like if you
like a
walk out of my
porch area?
kitchen,
Oh my
yeah, like there's an
gosh.
enclosed area, and he was just sitting in there. So so yeah, I don't know. Maybe he saw Looky-Loo and took some inspiration, but so that was weird. That just happened.
Perhaps. Oh my gosh.
Um, but yeah, so the movie came about kind of on accident because we had an entirely different movie, way different vibe, but it was also going to be sort of found footagey. So we were testing the cameras in low light, and so I was walking around my town at like midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning and testing these things, and it was
Mm.
the footage was already looking like intriguing and kind of creepy. But I would like walk down an alley and somebody would walk past. And so when I'd
Yep.
turn out, I'd wind up walking behind them. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm like filming this person and they have no idea that I'm doing this. And so it was kind of, it got the gears turning. And so then I pitched Nolan the idea of shooting essentially like the poor man's Maniac, the Elijah Wood version.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
Nolan misunderstood. And so,
Yep.
so Nolan, if you want to take, I guess this is your part.
I immediately started like texting like sort of like plot points or like things that could happen, thinking that what he said was essentially what the movie is, where it's a it's a serial killer making a documentary, kind of an artsy documentary. Um,
Mhm.
and I started like hitting him with all these points, and he was like, hold on, slow down, because that's not what I meant at all. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was my inability to like comprehend what he was telling me. My reading comprehension or lack thereof. Um, kind of, it was a happy accident. So we always say that it came from both of us and neither of us. It was a very, very organic sort of conclusion to come to make Looky Loo.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like everything sort of fell into place. The stars aligned. It's one of those films that I find to be very disturbing, yet I couldn't stop watching it. And it's not disturbing in that you see some really grotesque things. It's not like I don't know, like a shocking film. I mean, it has its moments where there are some kills. Spoiler alert, I don't want to give anything away. But there's just something fantastic about it. And I think you've really touched on a nerve because for those watching who haven't seen it, it's about basically the origins of a serial killer who gets a camera and starts stalking people and realizes he really likes doing that and then sort of takes it to another level. But the fact that he breaks into people's homes, not breaks in, but goes into people's homes and then just records, it's what, oh my God, I'm getting chills just talking about it. So, like I said, I've already said this. I think you guys have created something really special here, one to be seen. And I think the horror community will really embrace this film. If you're watching, you haven't seen it, make sure to check out Looky-Loo. And I do have a question for you. So this film has no dialogue, very little dialogue.
Yeah.
What was it like creating a film without a lot of dialogue from a director's perspective? And then Nolan, what was it like writing a screenplay without any dialogue?
It was definitely an adjustment from what I'm used to doing, I guess.
Mhm.
But it allowed for a lot of really natural behavior, I guess. Like a lot of times
Okay.
I would talk to the actors, usually actresses, and be like, if this were you, it was a night alone, what would you be doing right now? You know, and we just kind of play through those scenarios and some stuff there's a lot on the cutting room floor. Like we
Mm.
shot so much just to see what worked and what didn't. And sometimes we'd say, okay, that kind of worked. Let's go back and reshoot it again. So it was very much a trial and error on part one. And I have to be careful how I talk about part two that we're working on because it's
It's
we
very
don't want to
exciting.
yeah, we don't want to spoil anything, but it is a very different beast compared to
Okay.
part one. So part two is a lot more thought out ahead of time and
Mm.
scripted. You know, Nolan can talk about that, but part one was a lot of experimenting using Nolan's outline as kind of like the guiding force behind it.
Yeah. Um, and I'd say that from a writer's perspective, it was honestly it was very challenging to write without the dialogue. The like plot is even kind of fuzzy,
Mm.
but the assignment essentially was to make it feel real and not real like a movie, real like real. And so um, I think it was a lot of research. It was a lot of like an insane amount of true crime and learning about serial killer psychology, um,
Mhm.
and then really trying to ask myself kind of like, well, what put it was odd as a writer kind of to try to put myself in the head of this maniac and think, what's he going to do now? What like really what would he be doing on his day off, or
Right.
whatever he's doing, who what kind of people does he go after, what motivates him, and I really just let that sort of build the story, um
Mhm.
in this case. Part two has a script. Has like a much more traditional
More
script.
of a script.
um
Yeah.
yeah, but it's still it's we follow the same rules sort of.
Mhm.
So
Okay. Okay.
it's a lot of fun.
Will there be dialogue in part two? Can you say that?
There's
There,
some, yeah,
there's
yeah,
some.
there
There's
There's
some.
more.
Okay. There's more.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
Okay.
more.
Great.
I think
yeah,
there's a little bit more of everything in part two.
yeah, yeah,
So like we don't break
Yeah.
our conceit and like the
Okay.
structure, but the things we withhold in part one, I think we
Hmm.
give people in part two.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
But
awesome.
interestingly, there are moments where there are scenes that have dialogue written and the actors are speaking that dialogue, but Looky-Loo's he's not in the room with them. So
Mhm.
you're hearing this conversation. We've written it out, but you might not necessarily get everything out of that conversation. You know what I mean? Like, so it was a lot of
Mhm.
stuff like that where it's like, I don't know, we're just going to see if this works, kind of. And a lot of times I'd watch like reviewing cuts and things, and I think Jason, you do the same thing. I don't remember, but a lot of times I'll watch it on mute.
Same.
So yeah, almost like it's a completely like silent thing until we've got all the sound design in there, which is a big deal. But yeah, until then, I always watch it on mute. It has to work kind of without the dialogue.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, I can't wait. Count
yeah,
me in. I can't wait to see it. But focusing on the first film, we don't actually see the killer. We get glimpses of him. It's all told
mhm.
from his perspective. Jason, I understand that you are Looky-Loo, or the killer behind the camera, and that Nolan, you also contributed. So it was sort of a co-acting creation of this killer. Can you speak to what it's like being the director, the writer, and also sort of the actor?
I don't pride myself as an actor. I'm very comfortable behind the camera. That's where I think I'm meant to be.
Sure.
But it can be challenging. It can also be fun sometimes, but sometimes it is challenging because I'm wearing so many hats. And
Mm,
it's like sometimes I just want to focus on what's in the frame, but I have to also worry about what my hands are doing and like all that kind of stuff. Because I am technically acting, it's just all physical. Um,
mm,
and Nolan and I, like, I mean, the yin and the yang, like he's so necessary to this because if it was my voice being the Looky-Loo killer, I don't think it would be nearly as successful. So yeah, it's a nice like marriage, the two people coming together and doing it. As a director, sometimes um I feel like we have like when I'm working with an actor and I'm being the killer, it's
mhm.
like once we start rolling, I have to like pretend I'm the killer, like 100%, not think about what Jason would do, but think about what this guy would do. So it's kind of a weird process where I wind up feeling kind of icky at the end of every night, but usually we
Mhm.
wind up like having a real happy celebration at the end. Like, hey, all the bad stuff's over. Let's all hug it out. And like, that was fun, you know. So it's gone pretty well considering how dark the material is.
Oh, that's awesome. So, and yeah, very dark, and it gets very dark toward the end. Um, let's see. Like I said, you created something really terrifying here. There are moments when the killer is in a closet, for example, recording the people in the house. Um, when you were creating the film, did you know that one, you were creating something really special, and did you also get kind of creeped out as the voyeuristic elements really started to take play in the movie?
Well, yeah, well, especially when we first started, it was it we were experimenting. We had like this outline, but we weren't exactly sure what would play and what wouldn't. So
Mhm.
um I would be working sometimes with like just one actor or it's an actor and my sound guy and that's it. And like in the early days before we had some like teaser kind of trailer to show people, it almost felt like one of those true crime shows where the guy says he's going to make a
Oh,
movie and then really he
gosh.
like hurts this person. So it
Yeah.
was
Mm.
starting out was a little rougher than it is now. Now people can see like what we're doing and kind of get the vibe and the assignment and I think it's a little bit more fun now. The first time it really did feel kind of intimidating to ask people to even do this stuff. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I wasn't on set really for any of part one. I
Mm.
did the voice of of the killer. That was all done in post. Um,
Okay.
uh, but I would look at like essentially like dailies, like if Jason had filmed all day, he'd send me that footage and I would review it that day, and
Mm.
and look through. And I remember being sort of I was almost convinced before we got into this point, but we shot with Kelly, um, who that's the one with the socks, the actor with the
Okay,
socks.
yes. Yeah.
So yeah, so everybody likes to talk about that, but so he'd shot with her. She was great to work with. He sent me the footage, and I remember watching it and being like, okay, I think I'm like fully convinced now, and I think we're really on. Like I knew it was going to be divisive, but I was like, I think we might be onto something because it really creeped me out.
Oh, it's
Um,
so creepy. Yes.
looking at, and that's just and the raw footage is sometimes silly. Like
Mm.
you see, like if there's a scene where Jason's strangles somebody, if you're listening to the raw audio, they usually start laughing at some point during the uh because we are having a fun time on set. But man, that footage really I don't know, I did have a feeling that this wasn't going to be just like your typical kind of you're going to forget this a month after you watch it kind of indie film. um
Mhm.
and yeah, definitely I definitely had the feeling that we were onto something.
Yeah,
Oh, completely. Yeah, go ahead.
our sound designer Casey, who we also could not do this without. He's amazing, but he often he hasn't been there for a bunch of it. And now he's been in part two. He's been to more and more of the shoots.
Mhm.
But he still messages me all the time when he's working on the sound, just being like, I am creeping myself out right now, or this footage is like really bugging me. The other day he was doing like Foley sound with just the rubber gloves, like the nitrile gloves or whatever. And he
Oh
sent me
man,
like a
yeah, yeah.
photo of the glove while he was editing. He's like, I feel like such a creep right now.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, so
I
we're all
can
getting
see.
into the character a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Well, I mean, we've all had our moments when we're at home and you feel like your hair stands on the back of your neck or stands up, right? Like you feel like someone's watching me, or you look under the bed, or you look in the closet. But in your film, there really is someone there in the closet or under the bed. And I think that's what's so terrifying.
Yeah.
And you present it, it's presented in such a matter of fact way that, like I said, you can't look away, but you can't also stop, not watch it, right? Um, so congratulations on that. I do have questions. I just want to, I have so much
Well, thank you.
praise as well.
Thank
Um,
you. We appreciate it.
of course. So can you describe what it was like? So there must have been prep work for this, right? How did you prepare for the filming? Did you ever have neighbors or police come and say, why are you filming out in the street or looking in people's windows with a camera? Um, hopefully not. That's kind of a joke part. And what would you say was the biggest challenge of bringing Looky-Loo together?
So when it comes to the police and stuff like that, we were smart enough to warn police
Okay,
a few
good.
times, like, hey, like
Yeah.
we're gonna be creeping around looking through this window. But um we filmed one scene, actually the sequence with Kelly again. We that was the only place we rented. Every other place
Mhm.
we used friends' houses, people from the crew, whatever. So it looked really lived in. That one we had to use a rental, and I didn't think about the
Oh,
fact
okay.
that the rental was right on the other side of another house, right? So I was filming her through the window while I'm wearing a ski mask, and then people in the house next door across the driveway are pounding on the kitchen window to get me to stop. So I'm like turning around and showing them my face, and I'm still filming, and that's a shot that you see in the movie, but
Oh, yeah.
I had to just punch in a little bit and pan it over so you don't see the reflection of the family yelling at me. So,
Oh my
um,
gosh, you're lucky he didn't come out with like a baseball bat or something.
Yeah.
right? I no, honestly, like could have been shot, could have gotten
Or
arrested. Like,
that. Oh my God. Yeah.
yeah. So I
Wow.
I ran right inside as soon as the shot was over. I got the shot and then I ran in and like ate food at the window with her so they could see like it's
We're
okay.
friends. We're friends. It's
Yeah.
okay. I got your
Yeah,
friend.
we tried to be smart about it. We have let police officers know, especially when we're going to be outside and stuff. But that one was, we
Yeah.
got lucky. It wasn't worse than it was.
Mm. Okay.
I think the big challenge about the whole thing is like we committed so hard to our rules and trying to make it feel real that
Mhm.
like for instance, if we shot a traditional narrative and it was a kill scene, you'd have a bunch of different shots and different coverage. And for us, it's like there's going to be jump cuts throughout the movie, of course, because he's filming
Hmm.
all this footage and he needs to condense it down into this movie he's making. But when it
Right.
comes to the kills, we're like, well, it needs to appear to be one shot because otherwise, if you have those jump cuts, the audience immediately is like, oh, well, that's where they hid the cut and did the special effects and stuff like that. So that's been a challenge. Every single time we go to do one of these kills, it's the committing to our own rule is has been really difficult. But I think it rewards the viewer because we committed so hard. I hope.
Yeah, I think so. I think you did completely. Nolan, were you going to say something?
Oh no, I mean I agree with I agree with Jason's Jason's response. I think it's also hard when you know you're making something divisive, when you know you're making
Hmm.
something that's not for everybody. I would say that was like that's like an internal challenge. You want to make something that is going to
Yep.
be really super enjoyable and entertaining. And we wanted to make something, we knew that with this, we don't want it to be entertaining. We want it to be real. That was a hard line to walk. That was a pretty challenging line to walk, but we knew we had to walk that line. I think
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
wouldn't be
And
the
I think,
same movie. No.
yeah, I think you did it so well, expertly, even a very clever film. I think anyone who watches it, if they have a hide key, is going to get rid of that hide key immediately. I do not have one. Um, so basically, your film has convinced me never to get one. Um, let's see.
Awesome.
So let's talk a little bit about the sequel. I know you can't say too much and no spoilers, you want to give anything away, but what can you say for the fans of the first film? Maybe like a tagline, or I don't know. Is there anything you can say about it?
I guess I just say like part one is a demanding watch, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Um, and we probably started a zero or a one in part one, and we ratchet all the way up to maybe a seven or an eight, and part two begins at a 10.
Oh,
And, and like I said,
awesome.
I think what we withhold in part one, we reward the audience for sticking with us in part two. I would like to think so.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Oh, I'm excited. And keep me updated on part two. We'll have to do this again. I'd love to have you guys on again to talk about the
Absolutely.
sequel. Um, a couple of fun questions before we get to this or that. What is your favorite found footage film? And why do you think the found footage subgenre can be so scary?
I know people are gonna think I'm lame for saying this, but it's probably Blair Witch Project for me.
Yeah, of
Like
course. Yeah, yeah,
I
sure.
love
I
I
love it.
love all sorts of found footage. I could
Hmm.
list a bunch of movies, but that's probably the one that I've watched the most in my life and that like
Hmm.
always rewards me, it inspires me, it empowers me. So I'd have to say the Blair Witch Project.
Love it.
Uh, Mine is also Blair Witch Project, but just to not just to not be monotonous, I'll give an honorable mention. I think to Creep /Creep 2.
Mhm.
Oh,
I really
yes.
love those movies, and I think maybe on
Fantastic.
some
Hmm.
level, watching Creep really inspired me as an indie filmmaker because I was just like, yeah, you know what? They didn't make that for a lot of money. They
Hmm.
didn't need a lot of money to make that, and I thought it was an effective, a very effective found footage horror movie. So, um, yeah, I think I'll just toss those out there in case anybody hasn't watched those ones.
Excellent
To check
choices.
them out.
The
Yes.
the cool thing about Creep as well, I
Hmm.
don't know if maybe you guys already know this, but when they first made that, it was more like a dark comedy, and they showed a rough cut to their friends, and their friends were like, "Hey, this is actually really creepy. You might want to lean into that." So they actually went back and shot extra stuff to turn it into a horror movie. So I it feels
Oh, I
very
don't think
similar
I
to
knew
us.
that.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
we knew ours what it was going to be from the beginning, but that kind of experimenting and like seeing where the project takes you, we shot stuff for Looky-Loo that wound up on the cutting room floor, and not because it doesn't work, it works, but then when you watch it in the edit, it feels like okay, maybe that's a step backwards, right? So like we have to cut that out. And it wound up some of those wound up on the special features or whatever, but we did that same kind of experimenting and seeing where the project takes you, you know?
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check out the special features. Um, I often like to ask if you could describe your film as like this movie meets this movie, like Blair Witch meets American Werewolf in London. I'm just thinking movies that come to mind. How would you describe Looky-Loo if you had to pick a few other movies that's a pulls elements from, I guess?
Yeah, probably Blair Witch meets Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Oh man, I love it. Yes.
That'd probably be my description for somebody who doesn't know
Yeah.
the found footage genre well.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think that's fair. I think that's fair with a splash of Peeping Tom.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
And the Maniac remake with
yeah,
Elijah Wood,
yeah, definitely
maybe.
some of that.
Um,
Yeah,
I'm just throwing in my own thoughts.
yeah.
Um, if you
No, that
could, this is my last question before I do this or that. If you could remake or reimagine any classic found footage, what would you choose? And would you go to the Blair Witch or would you try something else?
you know, people might get mad at me about this.
Oh,
I think I would remake Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon,
I love that movie. Yeah.
and I would get rid of the narrative portion. I
Mm,
People might get mad at me. I love that movie. I have the mask up on my wall. Like I'm still a fan, but I think the movie would have been more successful had it just
yep.
committed to the documentary found footage aspect of it. That'd probably be mine.
Mm. And we
I
never got that
don't.
sequel, unfortunately.
I know.
Maybe you could do the sequel. Go ahead, Nolan. I
Yeah,
cut you
I don't
off.
know if I'd want to do a. I don't know if I'd want to do a remake, but I would love to take a crack at a paranormal activities movie. I don't know how many movies there are, but I always had fun with those. Even when I thought like, okay, it's kind of jumped the shark a little bit, you know, even those ones I was like, no, but I'm still having a lot of fun. I'm still like getting these sort of jumps. And I think you have to be creative in a certain way to do something with ghosts, on a found footage, kind of
Yes.
format. That's a challenge. And
Mm.
I just think that would be a lot of fun. I'd love to be involved in one of those productions. But yeah, I don't know about a remake. So maybe I apologize if that's a cop out, but
No,
that's
I
kind
mean,
of where I am.
I did say reimagining
Oh, okay.
or
Yeah.
your take on it too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
that totally works.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some thank you for that. Let's do some this or that questions. No pressure, kind of fun. You just pick one or the other. All
Okay.
right. The town that dreaded sundown or Zodiac?
Which the town that dreaded sundown, the original?
I know I should. I was thinking the original.
Then
I
for
didn't
me, town that dreaded sundown.
clarify. The
I
original, yeah.
I love Zodiac, so I gotta go with Zodiac.
Zodiac. Okay. Would you want to live alone or live with roommates? Maybe after watching
Oh.
Looky-Loo.
As long as they're good roommates.
Roommates.
Yeah.
Well, well, I'm married with children, so I already have roommates. So for the
You already
sake
have,
of just of the it's less complicated to just say roommates now. I
of
think.
course. Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's see. So back to some movies. Saw or Hostel?
Hostel.
Yeah, I agree. Hostile.
But I prefer Hostel Part 2.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Saw or Hostel Part Two then. Let's see. Documentaries or reality TV?
Documentaries.
Yeah, I gotta say
Probably.
documentaries as well, but I will
Mhm.
say that in the last few years, I've welcomed like mind-numbing content like that. Like there's nothing that
Like
shuts
the
my
Real
brain off
Housewives
more
or
than like
I don't
yeah,
know.
or like Rock of Love, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh my
Well,
God, yeah, you
it's
can
like
sit there for hours, hours go by and you're like, what have I done with my life? Go ahead.
well, it's like John Waters. I mean, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I can
Mhm.
welcome some trash TV into my life. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I Rock of
Oh,
Love
for
is
sure.
I could
Yeah.
rewatch Rock of Love over and over again. I've probably watched that whole thing like two, three times. You
We're
know what I
Oh
mean?
actually
man.
we're actually doing it right now. Like
Yeah.
in
Are
between
you?
horror movies, that's what we're putting on.
I
That's what
love
you're
the
doing. Oh,
don't
I love
threaten
it.
me with a good time from the
Yes,
very
that we just went through that episode. It's so great.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
yeah.
moving on.
Yeah.
Let's see. Behind the Mask. We already talked about this a little bit. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, or the Poughkeepsie Tapes.
Oh, don't do that. I think I still gotta say Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Yeah, I think
Same.
so too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
same. Okay. Natural Born Killers or Reservoir Dogs?
Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, I gotta go with Reservoir Dogs too. I
Smart.
like Natural Born Killers, but
Yeah,
I
me
gotta
too.
go with Reservoir Dogs.
Hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. Roller coaster or water slides? Doing some non-movie things.
I'm a roller coaster guy, I think.
Roller
Yeah.
coaster.
Yeah. I'm
I
always
want to
afraid of
go.
like flying off the water slide. Like, you
Yeah,
go up on the
Oh
side and
yeah,
then
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you're gone. Right? That
Hmm.
yeah.
would be me. Um, okay, Maniac 1980 or Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer?
Maniac.
I like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer personally.
Yeah,
You're
that's a
gonna
tough one.
you're gonna break us up, man.
I
Like all
know
of
it's
these
I know.
different answers.
Our differences
Like
make it stronger.
seems
Okay. Oh,
there you go. Well, I'm not intending to touch a nerve here. Let's
that's
see.
right.
Norman Bates or Hannibal Lecter?
Oh, that's a good one.
I gotta go with Hannibal Lecter. I read all of those. I read
Oh,
all of
cool.
those actually in research for Looky-Loo. So I gotta go with Hannibal Lecter. I got it's a
I
soft spot in my heart.
I gotta go Norman. And it's like if it was Psycho versus Silence of the Lambs, then I
Hmm.
think I gotta go Silence of the Lambs. But when I think about like all the movies, yeah, I gotta go Norman Bates.
Norman Bates. Okay.
Fair.
Let's see. Angst or The House That Jack Built?
Angst, 100%.
Angst. Angst.
Angst. Yeah, it's good. Well, it's good in a very disturbing way, and you'll never
Yes. Oh yeah.
forget it. Let's see. Death Proof or From Dusk Till Dawn?
Ooh.
Oh man, I'm gonna go with Death Proof. To be honest, I love I like both
Yeah,
movies, but man, Death Proof. It's
so good, right?
underrated. It's underrated. It's a lot of fun. It's a very well made movie.
I think I
Yeah,
gotta go
agree.
Death Proof too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I do like the vampires though.
I do
So do I.
too.
So do I.
That's tough. Okay, just a few more. Would you want to stay overnight on a haunted cruise ship or in a haunted hotel?
I guess Haunted Hotel probably.
Yeah, I was in the Navy, so I spent enough time on cruise ships. So
You
I'm
jumped
gonna
on the
go ahead
hotel.
I'm gonna go ahead and go with the hotel as well. Yeah.
That's fair.
Well, I didn't think about it. With a hotel, you could just run out and leave. On a cruise ship, you
You
can't
know,
really.
it's also I feel like with a haunted anything, it
Mhm.
it affects you most if you believe in ghosts, which
Yes.
which I happen to not personally believe in ghosts, so
Same.
Okay.
I've stayed in haunted locales, and nothing's happened to me, but I don't know for sure, but I would say I'm a firm skeptic. So I'm staying in the haunted hotel, and I hope they have a continental breakfast.
Yeah.
That's kind of where
Gotta
I'm at.
have the breakfast.
Oh
And,
yeah, a
and
waffle. Yeah,
I think you just described a lot of found footage films that start with skeptics going
that's
into a
right. Yeah.
haunted
Well, and I did say
situation. So
I do want to make a ghost movie, a paranormal activities movie. So yeah,
there you
I
go.
want to
There you go.
believe.
You want to believe.
Yeah,
Yes, I
that's
get
right.
it. I get it.
Yeah.
Let's see, two more. You're next or Ready or Not?
You're next.
Yeah, you're next.
Mhm. You're
I
next is
do I
good.
do like Ready or Not. Don't get me wrong. But
I do too. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
We say this or that, but I guess you could say both, but then it's not as fun. Um, Halloween 78 or the original Jaws?
I don't even know how they're comparable. Damn, man.
That's a really great question.
That is.
I I guess barely, barely beats it, but I'm gonna say Halloween.
Favorite movie?
To be honest, I get a lot more joy out of Jaws, but
Hmm,
it's the
okay.
same sort of deal. I don't think I don't think this scene would be here without
Mhm.
Halloween 78. So I'm not downplaying Halloween 78, but man, Jaws, that the monologue about the Indianapolis, the scene with the, when they're
Oh, of
comparing
course.
their
Yeah.
war wounds and stuff. I
Mhm.
can't, I can't say
Mhm.
goodbye to those things. So
That's fair.
yeah,
Yeah, great choices. So I must
yeah.
say that Halloween is my favorite film, and my co-host who couldn't make it today, Jaws, is his favorite film. That's why we always
Oh, hey, there
throw
you
that
go. Cool.
in. There you go. Yes,
Yeah.
that's why we put them together.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you both so much for chatting with me today. Congratulations again on Looky-Loo. I'm a huge fan. Let me again show the covers because there's some awesome maniac vibes you've got going on here.
Very cool.
And let's see, how can folks find you on social media?
Yeah, we've got a Weird on Top Pictures Facebook. You can find Jason
Mhm.
Zink Facebook, Weird on Top Pictures Instagram. We also have a TikTok, but we don't really mess with that. And we left X because F that.
Yeah. um, yeah, and I'm
There you go.
Nolan Mihail on Facebook. I'm the Order of the Jackalope on Instagram. You know, and yeah, I'm fairly easy to track down. Send me a message if you wanna chat or be friends, and we can work on that.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys again. And I do want to say, if you want to get a copy, check out Scream Team Releasing, which is where I got mine. And let's see, if you are watching, like and subscribe because it helps our channel. And lastly, thank you both one last time. I loved your film.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Aaron.
you.
It's been a blast.
Very
Yeah,
welcome. Agreed. Bye,
awesome.
everyone.